All right, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Sunday, October 12th, 2025 is the date here, 1:03 p.m. That's California time. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 3.5 earthquake. It looks like around the Philippines. Well, there's a 2.6, 3.5 hiding somewhere out here in the red flag. But man, got a pretty good cluster of activity stirring up around the Philippines again. Also, some uptick around the Kamchatka area. Let's go ahead and get into it, see what we got going on here on this Sunday. Make sure all the bells are off, which they are. Philippines here, obviously getting some further stress and strain out here along the subduction zone of the Philippine Trench. You can see this a little bit better on this image. Down here is where we've had a lot of large-scale activity in the last week or so, including that 7.4 that struck. But I'm more concerned with the migration here northward, kind of towards the northern, well, actually it'd be the central area of the Philippine Trench. Shortly after the activity there in when that 7.4 struck a couple days ago, we had a 6-pointer. Today we have a 5.7 earthquake, pretty shallow, and a couple other earthquakes out here that are migrating northward. The most recent one shows a 4.5 within the swarm, well, aftershock sequences there from the 7.4. But a little concerned here that we may see some larger activity. It's got that migration going on, a little pattern I don't normally like to see there in the subduction zone. So it's quite possible that 7.4 did not fully relieve the strain out there. It's capable of producing an 8-pointer up here along the Philippine Trench, in excess of an 8-pointer. And I do have this little easy graph formula, little mathematical calculation there of how to determine how many 7.4 earthquakes it would take to equal the energy of a single 8.0 magnitude earthquake, right? So we all know that the Philippine Trench, it's gotten 8.1s, 8.3s, and a lot of time has passed in that zone since we've had a big event. Now, whether there's enough strain right there to produce another big event, we got to see. Either way, it would take 31.6 7.4 earthquakes to be the energy equivalent of a single 8.0. We have not seen 31 6-pointers out here in the last couple days. Only one. So, therefore, I do think we're quite strained out here along this subduction zone, and I do think we need to be on guard for maybe some larger activity. It's not fear-mongering, just realistically speaking out here. It's got the capabilities here of producing an 8-pointer, and we have not had one in quite a while out there. So 5.7, one of the largest ones inland and away from that subduction zone, but these surface faults up here could be under quite a bit of strain as well. Not necessarily the entirety here. Well, you got to think about this. All that strain that's producing inland is a result of the subduction zone here. They're not showing local faults there across the Philippines, but I'm sure there's quite a few of them. And the main producer of all that strain is going to be the interaction here along that plate boundary, the subduction zone. So just watch that. I do think we could see some larger activity in that region. There's 3.5. One earthquake up around Taiwan this morning as well, 4-pointer. The Nankai Trough, pretty quiet up here around Japan. This area, I mean, we've had a couple earthquakes out here since that 7.4 struck a number of days ago, but really, it's awfully quiet for some reason. Further movement up north here into the Kamchatka area. There's a handful of earthquakes up here in the 4 range. It does look like I need to bring that date down just a little bit right there. But that still shows, quite a bit of activity here on the globe. So some movement this morning. I believe there was a secondary 4-pointer coming in here as well. I don't see it on the USGS map, but we've had at least 2 4-pointers this morning around the 11:30 time period. I'm sure the USGS will get to it eventually, but there's a slight uptick going on there today across the Kamchatka area. But this middle point boundary out here, southern end of the Kuro-Kamchatka Trench and Nankai Trough here down to Taiwan. Definitely want to watch that area. Back across New Zealand and the Kermadec Trench, just some older movement there from yesterday. So technically, this is going to be another quiet spot out here. Let's see, that 4.9. Well, it looks like I need to even go back a little bit further in the time adjustment here. Let me see. Right about there, I guess, right? I don't want to take all the quakes off. That's should be about the last 24 hours, I believe. Still pretty active. Quiet across New Zealand. I'll just watch these little quiet zones here today. Up in Alaska, we've got a handful of earthquakes scattered out and about. A number of them above 2.5, some from yesterday, some from today. Nothing big, just some 2s and 3s and a whole bunch of microquakes, which is very common up there in Alaska. Not a whole lot being reported out here through the Pacific Northwest, but of course that's what it's going to look like unless we get something of a larger magnitude above 2.5 or a human reviewer comes in and adds a quake onto the map. But it's a weekend. I believe tomorrow's a holiday, right? So it may be till Tuesday before they start throwing some of those smaller quakes up on the USGS map. Tremor map here from yesterday. Quite amplified, 609 epicenters of slow slip events, mainly up here underneath the Vancouver Island ranges there. Some down there across the southern coast of Oregon. It is deeper activity into the subduction zone of the Cascadia, well below the locked area, which sits upstream here and offshore, all the way down here to Northern California. I just want to double check a couple volcanoes here, see what we got going on. I know there's not a whole lot being reported, but you know, that seems to be the common theme out here. A couple earthquakes there. There's one this morning. A number of other smaller ones in there as well. This one should have got reported, but again, that's probably let's see here. That's actually from yesterday there at Mount St. Helens. There's that one earthquake from yesterday as well, a little 0.6 up at Mount Rainier. So this is Mount St. Helens here. As you can see, a number of smaller quakes. Those will probably go unreported. Mount Rainier up here. We'll check this real quick. Looks like all the quakes disappeared there off that map for some reason. Earthquakes. I see what looks like more earthquake activity. Maybe some of those may be some ice quakes, but that one's definitely a legit earthquake. That's recent. There was one from yesterday right before 8 o'clock. That's not going to be this one, a little 0.6. That was at 3:30, 15:32. So we got to go back. Previous UTC time, 15:32 is going to be. It's going to be this quake right here, for a little 0.6, right? Yes, that would be 15:32. What about all these other ones? See, it's starting to. It almost looks like it's starting to stir back up here in terms of the intensity of the swarm. A lot more active conditions out there as far as earthquake activity goes. I know there's a pretty strong system coming in here to the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. I want to check out the wind up there real quick, see what we got for the wind speed. Maybe some of that, maybe ice quakes, but let me see what we got. We do have a little bit of wind up there, mainly in Oregon, not so much up in the Washington or Mount Rainier area, but yeah, just I see what looks like an increasing amount of earthquake activity. Nothing big, but, you know, if you go back here to July 9th when it all started, that's when we were having hundreds of earthquakes a day there across Mount Rainier. It doesn't look anything like that, but we're increasing the numbers out here to where we're at right now. It's starting to kick back up a little bit, I would say. So we'll continue. About all we can do right now is continue to watch it. Northern California, pretty quiet across the southern end of the Cascadia, inland as well. When was the last one? At 11:40? So you're telling me there hasn't been any earthquakes in an hour and a half out here? Let me refresh this, make sure. Yeah, that's weird. Huh. Nothing above 2.5 for the West Coast. Pretty quiet across the board there. Some small microquake activity around Los Angeles. 2.1 is that goes is that on the Puente Hills thrust fault? Looks like it's close to it. Puente Hills thrust fault here runs through downtown Los Angeles and is capable of a 7.5 directly underneath Los Angeles. That had a little swarming activity on it last year and it died off, but looks like that 2.1 is around that area. A couple other smaller quakes out there around the San Jacinto fault zone and one on the southern branch here of the San Andreas Fault from this morning as well. Nothing big out there for now. Looks a little quiet, a little too quiet. Up into Yellowstone National Park, let's go see what's going on there, because last night when we checked it, looked like it was starting to swarm a little bit. There's still a number of earthquakes out there. There's some of the activity from last night and the afternoon. I see a number of earthquakes out there. Nothing big, but nothing showing up here on the map. No telling where they're at. They're either the earthquakes that are occurring over here west of the Hebgen Lake Estates area. You know, we've had a decent swarm of activity over here. Over in Idaho and also around Yellowstone National Park, but none of this is going to get reported on the USGS map until Tuesday morning, unless it's above 2.5. Had a 4-pointer out there in Texas yesterday, late last night. Let's see, did they downgrade it? Oh, they actually upgraded it. 4 point. No, they did downgrade it, because I remember it came in as a 4.4. That was late last night after the update out in one of the mini oil fields out here. Check on the satellite view and you can see there is those are not camping grounds out there in the beautiful this is a desert area out here of Texas. Those are all oil field operations and yeah, gas and oil fields out here. That's a decent sized quake. It's been a little while since we've had a 4-pointer out there, but these earthquakes can get above that level. They can get up in the upper 5 range and actually cause some damage out here. But I'm sure that 4.3, it was felt. I'm sure it was felt in the area. Oh yeah, I'm sure that's the last thing the oil folks want to hear is a recorded felt earthquake out there, because it's, you know, the earthquakes out there are the result of the oil field operations. Ever since the oil field boom back in the 80s, earthquakes. If you go back on a statistical chart, a huge spike in earthquakes. Out there across the oil fields, you know, and that's it's not a maybe, it's definitely a yes. If you look back the last 30 days of earthquakes here in Texas, we got over 1,100 earthquakes there. 1,105, yeah, 1,105 earthquakes, with the largest so far 4.3, hitting all the oil fields out there, and eventually this will continue to fill in, and that's just what happens out there in the oil fields. Just realistically speaking, that's earthquake country now. Dominican Republic 3.3. Also one up here on the that's a western side here of the Puerto Rico Trench. Doesn't look like it's directly on it, but over here to the west, a 4.1 striking out here this morning. Let's take a look here and see what we got globally aside from our zones out here. It does look like another 4.1 is coming into the Philippines area. That was at 12:49, so that's a little old. Mount St. Helens has another earthquake right there showing up on it. See that? That's a legit earthquake. Anything showing up? Oh wow, they actually reporting that one. That's a so that's interesting here. Wonder if they automatically just turned on the even the smaller quake reporting out here. That's a little 0.4 underneath this. That's 5 miles deep, but away from Mount Rainier, in between Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. That's a little odd. I bet you they revised that location, though. It's probably going to be closer to Mount St. Helens, because that's the seismograph station I have pulled up here. Mount St. Helens station, which is down here. But that's over at, that's a distance from that area to Mount St. Helens, and that's deep as well, almost 5 miles deep. This is just preliminary data. I'm sure it will get reviewed, maybe, see automatic status. But it's definitely a legit earthquake because it's showing up here on the graph. All right, back to the world view. 4.1 around the Philippines, also 2.6. Things are, still a little on the sketchy side out here, just because of all the elevated activity, that northward migration now in the Philippines. I would definitely watch this area here over the next couple days. May see some larger movement, but also don't overlook this area here. That's wide open, and it's I believe it's got some. It does have some potential there for a big earthquake. Question is if it's ready to pop yet or not. Some further uptick there across the Peru area. Peru Chile Trench showing some 3s and 2s, even a couple 4s in there that finally filled in. Yesterday morning it was pretty quiet out there, but it filled in overnight and today so far. Up into the Iceland area, we got some activity north and south here. A couple 4s stirring up. A little bit more active out here today across the Mediterranean region and Turkey area. Mixed bag of deep activity, some moderate adjustment going on there across the area. So let's go see what's going on here real quick. See what we got for earthquake activity. A number of smaller events out there. I don't think there's anything big going on. There's one of the 4s here this morning around Greece. Looks like 11 kilometers deep for that quake. Up here in Italy around the Campi Flegrei fields, there's not a whole lot of activity stirring up. There's still some, but these are over the last week or so. This is actually the last couple days, it looks like. There's a number of pages. Seems like there's a lot from yesterday and a little bit from today, so maybe an increasing. It does look like it is increasing a little bit here in this area, but nothing big. These are all very small microquakes in the low 1 range. A little bit over here as well over the last couple days, but pretty active. Still waiting on some movement here across the west coast, though. I just feel like it should fill in by now. It's just eerily quiet. All right, let's see what else here we got. There's that activity in the red, or Ethiopia from yesterday. Deep quake there into India. Yeah, that's still a lot of activity showing up there in the Philippines. A lot more than what this is showing here. So, increasing likelihood that we'll see it's a little bit more activity north along that subduction zone. Space weather activity. I heard we had a sea flare this morning. Wow, that's exciting. Not really. Well, it's been pretty quiet. We've been down in the B flare category. Looks like that little C flare came off of a center disk sunspot. Looks like it's still maybe wanting to flare a little bit more. Not a big event. Let's see, did Kevin catch it? Yes, he did. A long duration C flare in the vicinity of AR 4246. Oh, 4246. Yeah, right here. Looks like there was also. Let me go back here. Maybe produced at the same time some type of filament eruption. And also maybe a coronal hole directed at Earth. Or a CME directed at Earth. Quite possibly. So we'll have to check back on that. See if things don't stir up there for the auroras here in a couple days. Right now there is a G2 class storm. But if you look here, there's not a whole lot showing up here for the aurora activity. Everything's suppressed, and I believe that's got to do here with the BT-BZ component. If you look, there's our elevated speed. The coronal hole high-speed solar wind stream finally reached Earth last night, but and we're still elevated. It looks like above 600, maybe around 700 or so. What is it? Yeah, 667. But everything's closed up here. We need this to split here. That white line and the red dots here need to go. This needs to go south, and this needs to kind of stay open here, and that will allow the aurora activity to stir up. But it's going to be suppressed unless that takes place. This is KP index at 4. If they're forecasting a G2 class storm, it's going to be way more than this. But I guess we'll see what happens here. It's still a few hours before dark here across the North American side, so maybe things will stir up. Flare threat still, actually it looks like they bumped this up a little bit. 40% chance for an flare. Yeah, this one's grown overnight. That's where that upper C flare kicked off this morning. Looks like this area back over here is starting to grow as well. Another newer region coming around the eastern limb, southeastern limb here into view. So yeah, things are looking up there a little bit. Crazy how quick they can grow. So 40% chance there for M flare, X flare around 5% chance. I'll probably have to adjust mine as well because some renewed complexity there within those sunspots calls for maybe some more M flare or maybe some C and M flare activity. Quick glance here at any close approach asteroids to the planet. Let's take a look here real quick. This one's the 13th. That's tomorrow. Fairly safe there at 790,000 miles. Millions of miles there for the other ones. I don't see any doom and gloom on the asteroid menu for now. That's a good thing. Nothing major going on for severe weather. There's a small chance here, maybe some wind damage around Phoenix southward into Tucson. Maybe a little bit of hail threat out there as well, but really nothing of any major severe weather threats. We do have a massive low pressure here coming down from the Pacific Northwest, slamming into Northern California and bringing me and many others out here that enjoy this the rain. Going to get quite a bit of it. Should be able to, I think we're going to pick up here over an inch around the Chico area, maybe a little bit more from the storm system if it holds up, hopefully. Southern California going to get in on it as well. And then after that, well, looks like maybe some more storms there for the West Coast. Things are definitely mixing up out here. A lot. Look at that. Boom, boom. Lots of storminess there for the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, and Northern California. I'll take it. Here's the, I don't like that rain shadow. You guys see that little area there in Northern California, squeezed in between the Coast Range and the Sierra Nevada mountains? That's a rain shadow in there. I don't like that, but hopefully it will fill in. We're getting some, but just, it bugs me. I don't like rain shadows. Anyway, yeah, we'll definitely check back on that. That's coming in about noon tomorrow or so. All right, seismograph stations out here look pretty quiet for now. There's that one earthquake on Mount St. Helens. Everything else out here looks pretty quiet. I don't see anything major stirring up. And we did hit over 100, I think we got 162 members here for this month. Appreciate everyone jumping on board last night and actually gifted quite a few memberships out there. So check and see if you got a gift membership. Appreciate all that. So we'll be picking out 3 members from the Fishbowl here in 8 days from our monthly drawing that we do. Give away some prizes and whatnot to our members. So 3 of them this time. Awesome. All right, guys, we'll catch you out here a little bit later on this evening for the Sunday night update. Just going to take it easy, maybe get stuff prepared for the rain tomorrow. Got to make sure everything's wrapped up, put up. Nothing left out that can get damaged from the rain, because this is really our first serious winter storm out here. I mean, it's not even winter yet, but early season storm. We'll catch you guys out here later. Have a good one.